Hello, it's me, Fully Stacked here. I am back in business, and today I'm going to be talking about Gigantic. Your first thoughts, if you've never heard of this game, is probably what is it and what do you do? And that is kind of hard to explain, because usually when you tell someone that you're playing a MOBA, they will assume there's like creeps to kill to get money, and there'll be towers and a nexus and stuff. This is more like a really basic MOBA, where you basically have to get kills to win the game, but there's also added objectives within it to make it a little less simple, and actually there's a bit of strategy involved. There are also multiple maps with the same objective, which is quite refreshing to see, as obviously with games like League of Legends and Dota, they have had the same map for quite a while, and it can get a bit boring sometimes, so it's nice to see that a developer's come up and gone, we're going to straight away make multiple maps. And just before I get more stuck into it, I'd just like to point out that the art style to me looks a lot like a low-res Overwatch meets Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I'd be curious to know what you think about the art style, because it's quite a unique art style. It's quite cel-shaded, but it looks quite nice for what it is. So yeah, to get down to it, this is a third-person MOBA game. I think the main attraction is that compared to a lot of other MOBAs, there's no kind of wind-up time to get the fight started. There's no, you need to farm and get items and stuff. You get thrown in there with a couple of skill points. You put them into whatever you want after you've picked your hero. You go around putting creatures on the map to help defend the points, which I'll explain a little bit later. And then you just basically go around trying to get kills or kill the enemy creatures that are guarding their points. So I'm going to explain this as best as I can, although it's very hard because it's not a traditional MOBA game. Your final objective is to kill the enemy guardian, and the enemy guardian, depending on what team you're on, as you can see at the top, there's two like pictures of creatures. One is kind of a dragon serpent thing, and another one is an owl. And essentially that bar underneath them shows how much power they've currently got, and you can get power by killing enemies or by getting the power orbs off of the points, which I'll again explain a little bit later. Although once that bar fills, they will then go on a rampage, go to the opposite side of the map to the enemy team's like base thing, and go and attack their guardian, and in that time you get 20 seconds to then damage their guardian to wound it. 3 wounds equals a kill and the end of the match. The team which kills the enemy guardian first is obviously the winner. Gaining an enemy's point can massively help turn the tide of the game. Different creatures on different points yield obviously different benefits. One of them will reveal enemies nearby, one of them will heal you when you're nearby, and one of them will put walls up, making it harder for enemies to come through. There are also more expensive creatures that you can buy in the store, although obviously I'm just trying to explain it for people who've never played it before, so you'd obviously learn more about that when you actually play the game. I do also quite like the different way that the skill leveling up system works. Every skill has multiple upgrade paths, so you're not just bound to having one skill that does one certain thing. You can actually just upgrade your skill to do multiple things, which is quite nice to see because it changes the MOBA environment a little bit, and it's quite a nice change really, because quite a lot of MOBAs that come out try and just kind of stick with what's currently out there, whereas this seems to be like third person MOBA that has multiple skill paths, also uses a different method of matchmaking, such as using the points and the guardian system rather than just having a nexus which is kind of just sat there and you have to fight through inhibitors and waves and all the rest of it. It makes it a lot more fast paced, more enjoyable, and more easy to understand to a degree. It is complicated, however it's not as complicated to understand in a short amount of time. It's kind of quite basic. It's as easy as getting into a third person shooter or a first person shooter or something like that. The only real negatives I can say about it is if you're more into a competitive play kind of MOBA, I would say that some things about this would probably frustrate you. Some of the heroes seem weirdly balanced. I mean, no one's really that OP. I wouldn't say there was one hero that constantly gets played. However, some heroes do seem more useful than others. One thing I have noticed in playing this game is that the healing is kind of meh. I understand that they don't want to make healing that OP, because then you just end up with everybody taking people who could heal or self-heal. But it does feel kind of not very rewarding to play a kind of support hero, but I don't know. It's only been out since the 20th, so I'm sure that it'll be updated in time, no doubt. And the only other thing I can think of is there is a current 60 FPS cap, which I know is like a really minor thing to be complaining about. And it will be changed eventually, I'm sure. But it is kind of annoying because It's not exactly a demanding game, so it would be nice to be able to push your card and your CPU to be able to get its full potential out, but again, small annoyance, will probably be changed in the future. And yes, I know I am not very good at this yet. It's one of those things where I'm just trying to learn the kind of game speed, what happens in the game, kind of what's best to do where, for example, creatures on what point, and etc. And generally how people play this game, because I only started playing a couple of days ago. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. It's just a quick look at Gigantic. Might do tutorials, I don't know. If I play it a bit more, like play it a bit heavily and get into it a bit more and learn how it works, I might do tutorials, I'm not sure. But that pretty much wraps it up for this video. So if you like this video, then give it a like. If you dislike this video, then give it a dislike. And if you really like me, you can always give me a subscribe. And I hope to see you for the next video.